Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Higgins. Welcome to Mastering the Second Half, and you are here for our inaugural Trying to Go Live. Dear God, I hope this is working parade. With us we have, where's the button for everyone? We have Silke Schwarzkopf, Robert Manni, and Nick Lituanio. I will introduce them all in a second, but what we are going to do is have a 30 or 40 or however long discussion on all the stuff that we learned after we turned a certain age. Now, quick, I can't even speak anymore. Really quick, Silke Schwarzkopf runs a Second Act TV, a great YouTube channel. Robert Manni is Guys Guy Radio, Guys Guy TV. You got something new you're starting too. He was just telling us about it. Nick Lituanio,
Come on, Rick, come on.
Nick Lituanio of the self-named YouTube channel, Nick Lituanio. Okay, I'm just going to drop you, Nick. It's too hard to say your name.
So I'm used to, it's okay. I'm used to people butchering my last name. You're not the first, and you won't be the last.
Especially not tonight. So what we're going to do, and by the way, this is with your participation. So if anybody has a comment, question, thought that you want to share or get our opinions on, feel free to type it in, and I'll interrupt them and yak away. We got one thumbs up already, so I don't know who that was, but thank you. We're going to start tonight off. I did a mental coin flip before this started, and I picked on Silke. So, Silke, back, what was it, last year when you turned 50, what was the biggest surprising thing that you found that you didn't know back when you didn't know it?
Well, just by the opening of this show, what I learned is that how silly we can be after 50. And I turned 50 a long time ago. I think I outaged most of you here. So it's been a little bit of a stretch. Is that really how you want me to start? The biggest thing I learned, or what?
Oh, wherever you want to start. Your biggest surprise, your biggest thing you learned, the things that some 42-year-old doesn't quite know yet.
Well, I suppose in a way it's good for me to start because my whole show, Second Act TV, started that way. Life after 50, waking up and realizing that you're in a place where, oh my God, we only have 30 years left if we're lucky, and is this really the way we want to live? So I think the first thing I learned is that you can start again. One of the biggest the things that stuck with me is one of my friends. I mean, I was just a little bit of background. I was, married for 25 years. I wasn't in production. All of us here are. So that's, this is fun learning all this new stuff. Another thing I learned. But she was talking about her son. He had just gotten accepted to a great college, and it just sounded so exciting to start life again. And I said that to her. I said, God, wouldn't it be great just to have a clean slate, Joan, and start again? She said, Silke, every day is a clean slate. And those words changed my life in a lot of ways. And so that's the first thing, maybe if you're saying pass that on to somebody younger or whoever, it doesn't matter how old you are. Every day is a clean slate.
Yeah. I'm curious, what was your first clean slate item?
Well,
if you can say it, without demonetizing me.
Well, leaving my marriage. I realized.
Funny, that's how mine started too.
That I could leave a 25-year marriage. I thought I was crazy for doing it. Again, to just give you a setting to my life, I was in Texas at the time. I'd been married 25 years. I worked out of the house, kind of like I had a studio at home and then went on location, somewhat isolated. And I thought that was it. I did well professionally. I had, a beautiful life, but I was miserable in my marriage. And when I finally realized that I want out, I thought I was crazy. I really thought I was going crazy. And it wasn't until I expressed that to other people, some of my closest friends, which is again how Second Act got started, that I realized I wasn't the only one. So that's the second thing I learned, that it was a huge thing. I learned about gray divorce, and that is a phenomena in our generation. And I'm not saying this to advocate divorce or, hey, let's all get divorced. I'm just saying that if you feeling like this, you have two choices, to figure out how to fix it, and you do have the option to get out if that's what you come up with.
I think that was probably my similar biggest thing, was that I had always, growing up or in my 20s and 30s and 40s, I had just always assumed you had to follow the life plan, the American standard: get married, have kids, buy a house, get a bigger house, wait for grandkids. I had no idea that you could actually live the way you wanted, that, like you say, clean slate, that you could have choices. And it wasn't until my second divorce, I'm like, wow, I can kind of do any frickin' thing I want, in a way. I had no idea it was even possible before. So,
right.
Yeah, I kind of get you.
Yeah, it is. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not for the weak at heart, is what the expression is, but it is an option. I'll let somebody else talk.
Gentlemen.
For me, it's not a clean slate. I look at my life, and everything has been incremental. And what happened before is absolutely relevant and important every day. And so I never have done a cutover. Like, okay, tomorrow is totally different. But like you, Rick, I was on the kind of American male, got to get a job, got to support, got to do all that stuff track. And when I had an opportunity to kind of look out, and I knew I could sell my business and retire early, not that I'm really retired, but that kind of just turned me upside down. And it really was like, well, what the heck am I going to do? If I've reached the finish line, that finish line that I was supposed to be striving for, what now? And that's, I guess, why one of the reasons that, I'm doing the YouTube thing, and one of the reasons I became a personal trainer, to work with people. It's like, what do I really want to do? And am I allowed to do what I actually want to do? Is that okay? That was a big turning point for me, to give myself permission to kind of rethink my life, build on what happened before and look forward in a way that I never expected. It was a big surprise.
Interesting. Yep.
Okay, I'll take a shot at it. When I turned 50, nothing changed. I came off of running my third marathon. I felt fantastic. I was working a traditional job. And between 50 and 55, I got married for the first time. I had a child, and everything was pretty much the same way as it had been. So I didn't really think anything different, except I did get a subscription to AARP magazine sent in the mail. But what I learned then, I had a health scare when I was about 56 or so, when my son was a year and a half old. And I had a chance to look into the abyss for the first time. And it did change my perspective on everything. Unfortunately, I got through it, everything fine. And I think what I learned was that, aging is fine. We are all going to age, but getting old is something different. And it depends on the agreement that you make. If you agree to get old, you will get old. And if you agree that you can age gracefully and you focus on protocols that will help with your longevity, you're going to have a much better day-to-day existence. And of course, you can do what you want to do a little bit more if you've worked for many years. And every day is a clean slate. But I always thought that every day was a clean slate, and I always thought I was going to do what I wanted to do anyhow, and I did. So for me, I started looking a little more fine-tunedly, if you will, at my day-to-day existence, my protocols, what I was eating, what I was consuming from a media standpoint, what I was consuming in terms of beverages and other things, and really taking care of myself and looking at longevity as a goal, not just years, but quality.
I actually saw a study today. It posted it up on the Facebook group. For the first time, they're actually starting to see people are embracing aging. Before it was always I'm forever 39 or pick your number below. But for the first time, people are saying, I'm embracing aging, and maybe it's a little bit because COVID kept us locked down, but it's not, I want to get better, eat healthier, whatnot, to look better because I want to live longer. One of the things they said was that people generally think of themselves as feeling or looking about 5 years younger than they actually are, and 6 years younger mentally than they actually are. So our generation is actually really starting to get on board with this is the time, which I think is kind of cool.
And I'll just say something quickly. I think all of us, including with lots of other creators out there, are to thank for that, quite frankly, because there's people that suddenly gave a voice to this. That, hey, we're not, we're 50 and we're here. We aren't going to accept just growing old.
And I think what you said, Robert, is so absolutely spot on. There is a component of this which is a decision that you choose to make. Am I going to take care of myself? Am I going to learn new things? Am I going to remain active? Or am I going to sink into the recliner? And I think, it has to do with the curve of the baby boomers and the number of us who are getting older at the same time, and kind of throwing off that old stereotype and being, I'm 60, I'm 70, I'm 80. It's better than the alternative. You're on the right side of the dirt, as they say, and it's always good to be on this side of the dirt. And it's up to you. It's up to you to make the most, that you can out of your life. As you say, Robert, with protocols, whether that's exercise or diet, meditation, more sex, whatever the things are that kind of help you move through the world feeling good about where you're at, man, embrace those things and go after it. I think now is the time for us to be able to kind of rewrite those rules. And science is helping us a little bit too. I mean, let's not neglect or forget the fact that, medicine.
We have Cialis now, which is everyone's favorite. Yeah.
Which allows us to kind of, do more well than maybe our parents and certainly our grandparents did.
But it's interesting that I just read an article today that said millennials, the older half of millennials are having chronic illnesses at a rate of 44%. And the number one item was chronic disease was depression. And so it's really important about, as Nick was saying, also about the agreement that you make in terms of aging, if you embrace it or not. I mean, look at COVID, what happened. People call it the COVID-15, we put those 15 pounds on from being inside, but chaos creates opportunities. I just wrote a blog on my website, robertmanni.com, about 10 healthy habits I picked up during the lockdown. And I couldn't believe it when I was writing it that, wow, when did I start that? Okay, I started that in October. When did I start that? So I did rebounding, qigong, meditation, juicing, dowsing, more cardio, being more plant-based, gave up alcohol, more affirmations and commands, and more just stretching. So just things like that, very basic things. So I think what happens, particularly for us guys, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think men get stuck, and it's really tough to make changes. I know with my friends, I deal with them all the time, and they'll talk about the New York Jets draft and stuff like that, but they don't get off the dime when it comes to things that really matter in terms of their health, their well-being, and what are they going to do for longevity, because there's so many guys who are over 50 and a lot of boomer guys who they are behaving, they're doing everything the exact same way they did when they got out of college. They're eating the same, they're drinking the same, they're defining themselves the same traditional ways, and they get to a point where it's like, oh, that's going to be taken away, or this part of it is over, now what? And really the time to start thinking about that is before that happens. So you're in a good position to have a really long, fulfilling life in your latter years.
I actually had that on my list. Sorry to interrupt, just real quick. One of my biggest surprises was just how different life is on this side physically. You can't do the things you used to do. You have to learn how to do them differently. You can have the same result, but exercise doesn't work the same. Eating doesn't work the same. And drinking and hangovers don't work the same. Everything requires a little new knowledge now. I'm sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, you did, but that's fine.
Okay, well, I'm just going to disconnect you now. So here you go. You're front page.
So here is something I definitely did learn after 50, not exactly at that age, and it is that women definitely have an advantage over men. And, you know, besides the multiple orgasm thing, it is the ability to form community and support each other in really authentic ways that men have trouble doing. And I believe that, you know, what you were talking about, Robert, like they want to talk about the jets, but they don't want to talk about their prostate. They don't want to talk about the realities of things that are going on. And when I became a personal trainer, one of the things that just blew my mind is everybody, men and women, especially men. I work mostly with men. Everyone has some physical ailment. Everyone. And men do not talk about it. My friends, we do not share that type of thing. It's like, oh, your hip's bugging you? Oh, you got a bum shoulder? Oh, you know, you're on statins? That stuff's like forbidden. And I know my wife, with, you know, her friends, she has a support community and an openness in communication that really, you know, I'm guessing, Silke, is a big health benefit to be able to have that support and unload stuff and get that unconditional love back. Must be really, really powerful.
I just want to clarify one thing. I'm sorry. You don't have multiple orgasms, Nick?
Oh, you beat me to it. You beat me to it.
Oh, that is too funny. What you're describing is, again, exactly how Second Act got started. I reconnected with my high school friends who, you know, we stayed in touch periodically throughout the years, but really not on a everyday or, you know, weekly or weekend, whatever friendship basis. And once we did, what we talked about was just, I mean, that's what gave me the idea for Second Act is, oh my God, we're all struggling with this. We're, you know, if we feel like this, then, you know, there must be thousands of others that do. And one of those things, which you keep hinting at, yeah, it's sex. Rediscovering, you know, sensuality. Now, this is something where women are willing to talk about it, but we don't know what, I mean, it is amazing what women our age don't know about our bodies. And that's, I mean, I went through that. You know, when you don't have sex for 10 years, guess what? I mean, there's so much to learn there. And that's one of the things we of course, do on Second Act, talk about rediscovering sexuality, sensuality. And yeah, sex can absolutely be better after 50. That was a huge thing, the best sex ever.
Actually, I want to get into that just real quick. Hey, but we actually have people watching, believe this or not. Feel free to throw some comments out there. Tell us about what we're about to talk about. Yes, that's also my biggest surprise, that sex got better, but I want to hear from you guys how it got better. I know.
Hopefully it's nobody's children going, ooh.
Well, we just lost one viewer. That might have been my kid. I don't know.
That's it then, it's just us again. You know, it's interesting. The biggest change probably in our lives, if you think about it, is birth control. Once women could take the pill, that opened everything up so they didn't have to worry about, they could have more command over their own body. They didn't have to have the traditional roles. They got into the workplace. They didn't have to stay at home then. Everything, that's really the most important, to me, discovery of our lifetime has been women getting birth control. I don't know. What do you think, Silke?
Well, that's certainly one. I think
as a catalyst.
Yeah, it gave you some freedom over your own body. But for me, actually, I mean, for me, it truly is the whole idea that there was never a good source to learn about sex. What I carried, you know, with me from things I overheard or learned or experienced as a young adult that I believed to be true after I, you know, through my marriage and after I got out of it was, I mean, it's ludicrous almost. And I think now, you know, that's one of the reasons that I opened these discussions is there, you know, and lots of other women are out there that where you can get some good answers to truly understand what's going on with your body and enjoy that part of you that you may never have had. There's so many women that haven't had orgasms. But we don't talk about it. So I don't want to steer the whole conversation that way.
That's
But
just
you guys
brutal.
were,
Spoken like a true man.
Let me tell you, the same thing happens for guys. Let me tell you about when my dad wanted to talk about sex with me, figuring that's like a responsibility. So he said, Bob, you ever wake up in the middle of the night and, okay, we'll forget about it. That was it. That was
We
my
pretty much
sexual
had the
drink.
same conversation, except my dad yelled at me because my one and only question offended his Protestant Christian sensibilities. So
I don't know, guys.
The only thing my mother told my sister, I mean, really, it was, well, that basic, and I was raised German, but it's obviously it's your duty as a wife when you grow, you to have sex, and then just let it happen, just let it go over you. It's like that was it.
So I think I'm
Isn't that it though? That's what I do. I just let it happen.
Fourth grade, I had sex education, and then I had it again in 8th grade. By the time I hit high school, and my mom was a hippie, I'm a little bit younger than you, I'm 58. My mom was a hippie and a woman's liber. Like, to me, the sex, I was a kid of the sexual revolution. And so the stuff that you're talking about, Robert, like the pill, my mom took full advantage of that. And I grew up, and it was like, oh, so this is going on. And my experience is a little bit different than that. As I got older, my sexuality, one of the big changes is really just not being so focused on the finish line, and which allows me to drop into a whole different role and level of pleasure. Because that particular finish line, as men, we're like, oh, I got to have that, got to get there. And it's like, well, you don't always have to get there, I mean, sometimes it can be kind of good to not get there because the next time you go, it's that much better, And the wife and I did, a tantric workshop a few years ago, and it opened my eyes to a lot of things that kind of blew my mind, really, from a sexual standpoint.
Interesting.
Got any questions?
do you have a film clip you want to roll or something?
I think you killed the mood when you said, well, you don't have to get to that destination.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know.
Have to
Yes, you
agree
do.
to disagree.
That's funny. No, the other thing that, and we mentioned it earlier, what I was just really, really surprised at, and a message that I keep emphasizing on the show, and with all you guys, I love having you on, but is the fact that you can get into the best shape of your life after 50. I mean, I did. I ran my first marathon at 55. I often reference that I ran to my new life because that's the only way I could get out of the house without being questioned where I was going. And so it is amazing what our bodies will allow us to do if we take care of ourselves. So kind of jumping back to an earlier part, but I think that's important. I wanted to reemphasize that as well.
Well, and that's one of the things that I focus on my channel is trying to have people feel optimistic about what they're capable of. Mm-hmm. It's not really an exercise channel. There's plenty of people doing that. But you're absolutely right. Our bodies are miraculous, and simple things can make huge differences in the way that we move around the planet. A little bit of balance work, a little bit of quickness work, some strength work. Those things, and it doesn't have to be hardcore, like you said, Robert, certain Qigong, there are things. Breathing, and all of these various things that we can do. It doesn't have to be pushing the big weights around and grunting about it to get yourself in better shape. There's a place for that, but, I honestly get sad when I see the health and fitness industry and the models that they hold up and what they're trying to get people to aspire to, because it's simply not realistic and it's not functional, and it can be counterproductive, especially as you get a little bit older. Right.
Very discouraging. I guess that's one more thing I want to add, and then I'll shut up. But having said that you can, it's also, and I'm learning that currently, is that you have to embrace and accept when you when things do change. I mean, I'm 62 now, and there was definitely a change in the last 2 years. And I am learning to embrace that. And maybe to Robert's point, to, where are you in life? Embrace that. And it's okay. It's okay. It's aging. It's not getting old.
Do you guys think it's easier for us? I was thinking the other day, when our parents were in their 50s and their 60s, if they wanted to do research, they had to go down to the library. We have so much more information available. Hell, just between the four of us, there's just 4 channels of stuff going out into the void. Do we have, are we sort of gifted now that we have that ability to get all of this information and to learn? Is that part of, you think it's easier for us?
I think it's a really good thing. I think the toughest part is taking that first step. I mean, we talk about fitness, and as Nick said, they show all these fitness models, and everybody's in really killer shape. And I understand that because it's aspirational. A lot of people, and millennials and all, who work out really hard. So you have to show them that. However, for many of us over 50, it's just even being in a position to take that first step, to get outside for a walk, to swim a little bit, to do anything. And it all begins with the first step, because a lot of folks unfortunately have given up. And I think one of the things we're trying to get across to everybody is this is not a time to give up. This is a time for rebirth, re-emancipation, and realization that you define what your world is. You define who you are, and you make that agreement that in the way you're going to live.
So Rick, to your point, to your question specifically, do I think it's easier? I think that as a population, there's something that we have to deal with that our parents and grandparents didn't deal with. That is the cost per calorie and the food industry, which is absolutely different. They make food that tastes really good, really cheap, and it's really bad for you. And that is a complicating factor. We have access to foods that are just mind-blowing. And the other thing is, we're all old enough to remember Jack LaLanne, okay? And Jack LaLanne was pretty dead simple fitness, but if you did Jack LaLanne 4 days a week, you'd feel like $1 million. Yep. So sometimes I think that people get overwhelmed. They get overwhelmed with the amount of information, and like Robert said, they don't know where to start. And it is enough to walk every day as a way to walk every other day. That's your entry point. And once you begin to form a habit like that, it's going to be that much easier now to build another good habit on top of it, and another good habit. And so many people get overwhelmed, they throw their hands up, and they're like, I can't do this. This is just too complicated. And it just doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah. I actually saw something the other day. I don't know, it was one of those super motivational YouTube guys. They were saying you don't even have to do that. If you just need to set something up for 2 minutes. So it's like, maybe you don't have to do an entire hygiene routine in the morning, but if you just say every morning I'm getting up and I'm brushing my teeth, that simple fact, well, while I'm here, why don't I comb my hair? Hey, while I'm here, it's just sort of, I think if people can just set a very, very small habit, and just while you're there, you'll just start doing other things, and it just becomes, builds and builds and builds. At least that's what I'm trying. That's what he said. Well, I'm going to give it a shot.
I'm going to start brushing my teeth tomorrow.
I'm going to start getting up. That's it. I'm going to start with that.
Yeah. Right now, if I do it by 5 p.m., I count myself lucky. Hair, so.
There's actually, you know what, Rick? That is actually 100% a thing. And, it's often called the formation of a keystone habit. And the keystone habit is the habit that unlocks the rest of this. And for some people, it can be brushing their teeth, hopefully not, but making your bed, okay? Whatever the keystone habit is that you do, it's proven psychologically once you do it. If you walk every other day, then you're going to be able to maybe do some sit-ups one day. And then you start doing the walking and the sit-ups, now you're going to be able to eat a little bit better.
Yeah, their example was just putting on my exercise shoes and tying it. That's all I have to do, and walk out the front door. Well, at that point, you might as well go walking. But it wasn't so much thinking of I have to walk 10 miles a day. I just have to put on my shoes. That's all I have to do, and walk out the door.
Well,
I can turn
here's a
around if
little-
I want after that, but
Here's a little tip that maybe we can throw out at the folks. One thing that everybody can do is, and I've done it for about a year now, and it really works, is I don't keep the phone next to me when I go to sleep. So I make sure that the first thing that I do in the morning is not to pick up the phone, because obviously we go to bed with our phones, we keep them within arm's length, we're watching stuff on Instagram, whatever, while you're laying in bed, while you wake up in the morning, and it's really not the best way of getting things going. If you can, I get up earlier now and I meditate. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to do that or that's for everybody, but just avoid the phone first thing. Collect yourself. Feel good about yourself. Think about the day ahead and make it that clean slate and say, okay, I'm here. That's a good thing. Then you can look at your phone and your Instagram and see all the girls in their bikinis.
Well, that's
Or less.
something that I still that I'm guilty of. So thank you for reminding me of that. That's
We
really.
all are. We all are. Everybody is.
Mhm.
Look, life was a lot more peaceful when the newspaper came at the end of the day, and you set aside a few minutes and you read the news. It wasn't constantly in your face. We weren't constantly bombarded by information. Sitting in the back seat of the car going on a family road trip and being bored was a good thing, right? Your imagination is going, and now it's like, put them in the back seat, give them an iPad, keep them busy. And, as someone who has a 22-year-old, she is grappling with her relationship with social media and the phone and, how the role that it plays in her life. These things are kind of the work of the devil, and they create more problems than I think they solve, personally.
Yeah, we did. There's an interview I did with Gary Salyer, I think it was, Robert. Did about dating and what social media is doing to dating imposter syndrome or something, to where you're just never good enough anymore for anything because we're thrown in a constant comparison mode. And maybe that's something else that I learned. I did let go of other people's opinion of me, especially after starting this YouTube channel. Do I care what people think? Yeah, I mean, I love nice comments. I love the thumbs up. I do get, and we all do, that's just the YouTube world, really nasty comments too. And after getting enough of that, you just go, you know what? I'm just like, it doesn't matter anymore. And I've carried that into my personal life as well. It's like, I honestly, for the most part, don't care. If I disagree with somebody or they disagree with me, I don't care. It's okay. Just, you're out of my life. I don't have to have everybody like me, and I don't have to have people in my life that make me miserable.
That's a great point. Knowing, I think, over 50, knowing and being comfortable with releasing those things and those people that don't really vibe with us anymore, because we change all the time. And, you have your old friends and everything, and that's great. But sometimes you see kind of where they're going, and it doesn't really feel the same. And even if you're doing any type of spiritual unfoldment and all that, you start to see, I really love this person for the time we spent together or this or that, but I don't see us we're not on the same path right now. Everybody's on kind of the same journey, but in a different way with different timing. So you say, I'm going to just release that and just let that go, because I don't want to deal with the disagreements or this and that, but it was great, and I'm going to just keep going. And I think when you hit 50, you're more comfortable with releasing.
Yeah. Robert, and again, I'll make one quick point and then I'll shut up. But one thing that also what I learned after 50 is that our whole relationship with, the spirituality and what is life really all about, and what is our purpose and passion becomes so much more centric, because we realize that, we only have so many years left. So that's something that, I don't know, bringing that earlier into your life might make you a lot happier earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a comment like that, and this is probably going to sound somewhat horrific, but it's I think it's with anybody. You know, at my age, I choose who's in my life, whether they're friends or their family, just because they've been there for 30 years or I may be blood related or something. I think at this age, you get to choose who you want to be with, who you get to create your own family. And I think that was one of the more incredible things I've learned just recently, is that I have that ability to just surround myself with people who disagree and agree and like me and don't like me, but I get to pick who they are. I don't just get to take whatever washes up around me.
Mm-hmm. You know, just one other point, what we were talking about, I think another thing that people can pick up on when you have a little more seasoning, 50 and above, is that we've been trained collectively to, I do this and I get that, or I do this and I get that. And so if I do this, I get that. And now we know that that's not true anymore. We can blow that whole thing up. And what we can do is, I think people can learn how to position themselves to be in a better place to receive, instead of, I have to do this to get that. And it's just this plus this equals that. That's really not how the universe works. And you can put yourself in a position where you're open to receiving, and it makes your life a lot easier. And I think it takes a little bit of life experience to get to that point, to realize that, the game that we've been taught, I do this and I get that, is not actually happening anymore.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
I can tell you one thing I'm learning right now is we've been at this for almost 40 minutes now, and I keep watching the counter, and we actually have people watching, and every time it goes up, I'm like, okay, we'll just do another couple minutes. We'll do another couple minutes.
Has anyone asked any questions?
No, nobody has thrown a single comment. We've got 4 thumbs up. And we do actually have people watching, so thank you, people, for watching.
Thank you for watching. Let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, but we've been at this 40 minutes, so I'm going to kind of wrap this up. Just go around. Everyone just throw out your last words of wisdom. What are you going to go tell the 32-year-old how great life is going to be and what they don't know yet, or whatever else you want to say?
Do I have to start again?
No. One of the guys. We'll flip a coin, gentlemen.
Well, as a male, I think shut up and listen. Do more listening than talking. Give yourself space to, as you said, Robert, to receive. You don't always have to respond. You don't always have to be right. And, realizing when you're wrong is more important than being right. I think would be my words of wisdom.
I would say, and forgive me for getting a little bit in the spiritual area, but I think it's just so important that if we take the time to recognize the divinity in every single person, every single thing that there is, that our lives will change. And it's collectively. The more we do it, there's a ripple effect. You put out positive vibes, it comes back to you in tenfold, and it goes out there in tenfold. And it's really important for people who are positive to really put it out there, because we can make a difference.
You're so deep, Robert. That's what I love. Also, when you're on
I'm going to be really embarrassed when it's my turn.
I'm going to go really practical, and one of our biggest topics is relationships. And, one of the biggest messages, and I have Robert on about that all the time, and Rick, you've done some great programming with me on that. Nick, yeah, you actually did too. We had that one show. So having said that, where I keep emphasizing that, yeah, it's better to be with someone, what I would tell somebody younger is follow your own dreams and don't give them up for a man, because I did that. And it's not the man's fault. It was my fault. I learned a lot, but I can't say that my younger years were fulfilled or happy. And it was because I made decisions that weren't right for me, which is another reason why I made the abrupt decision at 50. So that is what I would throw out there.
And I think the last thing I would add is something very similar, is just know that you are only limited by yourself, that you don't have to follow a rule book, that do what makes you happy, make others happy, but that happy may be something different than the person next door. Just have enough tolerance and love for everybody to do what is important to you. And with that, I want to thank all of y'all for our maiden voyage on the live channel. I honest to God don't know what button I push now to end this. We may be going all night.
Well, Rick, and thank you for doing this. This to me
Yes.
is amazing that we can even do this. I
Yes,
mean,
thank
who
you,
would
Rick.
have thunk it?
Yeah, I was actually just telling Nikki, my girlfriend, an hour ago, I can't believe that I am. If you told me back in 1979 that I'd be sitting in a bedroom with a full broadcast studio and I could reach everyone around the world, the times we live in.
The times we live in.
Okay, well, hopefully, thank you all for watching. We're down to 5 people now, but thank you all. Let me try to hit this button.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
That-
everybody.
that was-
Thank
well,
you, Rick.
that wasn't the button. Hang on, I actually don't know how to end this damn thing. Oh, Lordy, that's the one chapter I did not. Literally, there is no button to turn this off.
Oh, this is so funny. If we're
Yeah.
on and on and on.
There it
Let's
is.
just all
It says
stare at
finish.
Rick.
I found it. It's in the bottom right. Thank you all.